Sireli hayreնակիցներ. Hello everyone. Please join me in first thanking the United States Sounds of Freedom Military Band for the lovely rendition. Today marks the 99th year of the Armenian Genocide. I am humbled and honored to be here, and I thank you for allowing me to be here. Before we begin, I would like to read a short excerpt from my husband's grandfather's poem. Մենք կռվող արյունով ձեռք ենք բերել ազատություն, ազատ ապրելը, աշխատելը, մեզ համար դարձել է իրողություն։ Մենք ունենք ծաղկած հայրենիք, զարգացած ազգություն, քանի որ ունենք անխորտակ, հզոր, անկախ պետություն։ Nazareth Abovian wrote this poem. He is 99 years old today. He is the same age as the genocide and is also a product of the genocide. His father was killed along with 800 other Armenians in one night. He was brutally killed by an axe because the price of a bullet was deemed too high for the flesh of an Armenian. Nazareth grew up without a father and without a clear understanding of where his home is. But he grew up an Armenian. All of us here are far from our original home, parts of that home that no longer belong to us. But we're still Armenians. Even though our accents may fade, what makes us special as Armenians never can. As a journalist for KMPH News, I've had the privilege of telling the stories of the Armenians here in Fresno. And I hope that as I continue to grow, I tell the stories of Armenians that also continue to soar. The Armenian ingredient is so many different things. It's our courage, our values, and our intelligence. It allows us to surround ourselves by Muslim countries and still maintain our identity. It's what allows us to have countless famous authors, musicians, politicians, and scholars, some of who are from right here in Fresno. But only we know what that ingredient is. And I say we change that. Let us not only aspire to be great for ourselves, but for the Armenian name, so that any room we walk into and any person we meet, the word Armenian will no longer need explanation. Let us be known for being the united, the strong, and the capable people that we are. Only then can we shatter the ignorance of the world and allow them to recognize what we are fighting for. Only then can we eliminate the threat of denial that continues to haunt us. Հայերս եղել ենք, կանք ու պիտի շատանանք. At this moment, I would like to welcome Reverend Father Hairabedian from St. Gregory the Illuminator Armenian Church. St. Gregory is the third oldest Armenian church in the United States. That Hairabedian has also served for many Christian and Armenian churches throughout the country since his youth.
Thank you. Աղոթենք։ Մեր պահպանիչ և հույսը բոլոր հավատացյալներուն Քրիստոս ասված մեր պահեր և պաշտպանե քու վիրավորված ժողովուրդդ ասկիս հայոց և նաև կաղոթենք մեր սիրելիներուն համար, որոնք այսօր կդարաբին, կչարչարվին, ինչպես մեր մեծ հայրերը մայրերը ըրին 99 դարիներ առաջ ովդեր Tunes մեր միակ հույսը։ Our Lord and our God Jesus Christ, we ask you to keep in peace your people, which you have formed thousands of years ago in that beautiful land of Ararat. Under that shadow, you have raised us. You have given us our culture, our church, our heritage. And we have seen many, many very dark, violent days. And we certainly remember what took place 99 years ago. We ask you to give eternal rest to those 1.5 million Armenians who perished and also be with those who are suffering at this time. And those who are here today, bless them with your right hand, keep them and the future generations of Armenians, wherever they might be. Amen.
Thank you. We would like to highlight that today's commemoration would not be possible without the Armenian National Committee of America, Central California. Their ongoing diligence towards bringing Armenian issues to the forefront is an excellent example of the type of organizations our community needs to be heard. I would like to welcome Sevak Tatevosyan.
Հայտադ հանձնախումբի գոմեն շնորհակալություն գայտնենք բոլորնիդ, որ այսօր հոսեք մեր հետը. Thank you, Ellina. For those of you interested in seeing Ellina, tune in to KMPH Fox 26 tonight at 10 o'clock, where she'll be covering some remarkable stories. And at this time, let's please thank our MC for the morning, Ellina Abovian. So, before I continue, if I can have all of the dead hides, the priests, please come up here and sit behind us. If we can do that right now. I saw dead Arshen and I think I saw dead Vahan. If we can have you come up here, please, and sit behind us. Religious leaders, members of Congress, mayor, county supervisor, staff, friends, family, City Council, thank you all for being here on behalf of the Armenian National Committee of America. Today we commemorate the 99th year after the genocide. And it still continues. In Kesab, we saw it happen again. And pardon me choking up, but we're still seeing this occurring today. We learned that the property for the people in Kesab was taken to Turkey and sold. So imagine that, folks. Imagine that your home has been pillaged and your children's things are in a market in Kesab being sold. So it touches me, and so I hope it touches each and every one of you, because 99 years later, we're still seeing the same thing. So just remember that as you're going through your daily lives, that this is still continuing, unfortunately. Today, there's still denial in a repackaged form. We heard a statement by the Prime Minister of Turkey sending his condolences, but also offering to open the files. And I will say to that comment, the files, what good are they if they're opened and destroyed? We all know that the files in Turkey have been changed, have been destroyed, and so to that comment we just say it's just denial in a repackaged form. Also, we heard President Obama again, unfortunately, come short of saying that a genocide occurred, so we need to call upon him to recognize that this is in fact genocide. Again, on behalf of the Armenian National Committee, thank you all for being here, and just know that it still occurs today. It's not at the same form where we lost 1.5 million, but it's happening in smaller and smaller times. And in Kesab, it occurred on March 21st. Thank you.
Thank you, Sevak. Among our audience today, we are proud to have the presence of the members of the Fresno City Council. A special thanks to Steve Brandow for providing a recess so that you and your members could be here with us. At this moment, I would like to invite everyone to join in a moment of silence as we remember the 1.5 lost souls. Right now, I would like to invite Faten Myaznih Kassabian to the stage, Ms. Kassabian is a member of the Armenian National Committee of American Central California and sings the Holy Trinity, and sings with the Holy Trinity Apostolic Church Choir. Ms. Kassabian will grace us with the American National Anthem. We would also like to thank the Fresno Army Reserve officers for training and their continued support. We would like to welcome also another great voice to the stage. Hygo Ohannessian is a fellow Armenian activist who has been an instrumental role in starting the flag raising ceremony for the Armenian genocide.
արդ կանչում է ազատանգախ Հայաստան, իր որդիկը արդ կանչում է ազատանգախ Հայաստան, նա իր նրան երեկույնով նվիրական մեր նշան, թող փոխի թշնամութեմ, թող միշտ բանձա Հայաստան, թող փոխի թշնամութեմ, թող միշտ բանձա Հայաստան, ամենայն դեղ մահը մի է, մարդ մի անգամ պիտ մեռնի, բայց Երանի որ յուրասկին ազատության կզովի, բայց Երանի որ յուրասկին ազատության կզովի։
Bring the love. Oh. Oh, her.
Before we proceed, let us please also acknowledge the future of our community, the Young Scouts of Momentum. Finally, we would like to welcome Mayor Ashley Swearengin. We thank you, Ms. Swearengin, for the attention you have given our cause throughout the years. As an esteemed mayor of Fresno for the last 6 years, your presence here holds immense value. A large Armenian diaspora calls Fresno home, and we'd like to thank you for your guidance.
Thank you very much, and good morning to all of you. Here we are, 99 years after the Armenian genocide, and because we did not acknowledge what really happened, we now, in recent months and years, see a repeat of history. Knowing that they will not be held responsible as in the past, mercenaries aided and abetted by Turkey crossed the Turkish border, attacking the civilian population comprised mostly of Christian Armenian in Kassabian, Syria. Actions reminiscent of 1915, and that's why we're here today and gathered to honor their memory and the memory of many who were your parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents. I'm pleased to be here today with two congressmen, Congressman Jim Costa and Congressman David Valadeo, who are also staunch supporters of having both Turkey and the United States recognize what took place starting on April 24th, 1915 as genocide. Those of you who are gathered here today know the rich and deep and powerful impact that the Armenian community has had on Fresno in the Central Valley. We are, as a community, the beneficiaries of those who survived. With their typical work ethic, they became a thriving community, and Fresno has seen its economy reflect the success of that work ethic, the determination and the persistence, ranging from the agricultural industries to shopping center development to educational professionals to elected officials and to so many who lead our community today. Some of you may know that I'm not Armenian, although I like to point out that I'm only off by one letter. And the simple addition of the letter A in my last name easily transforms that name to Swearengin. So I think maybe it's for that reason that the Armenian community has embraced me as at least a distant cousin. Perhaps we can go that far. In recent months and weeks, as I've seen friends and others who are of Armenian descent, a simple question, "How are you?" has elicited such a powerful response. Men and women well into their 70s and 80s who instantly choke up, eyes that instantly well with tears. Turns into a long conversation about what's happening in Syria and how can this be a repeat of history? How can we let this happen? Has been such a reminder to me of how fresh the wounds are and how deep the memories go. And that's why we're gathered here today. And as I reflect on those who have been impacted by genocide, their families, their ancestors, and I see many of you gathered here today. I see you standing in honor of their memory, in protest of the actions of the last 99 years and in recent months. But I also see a people standing before me who are a people who choose to find hope and who choose to turn their hearts and their minds to their God and to say, "We trust you for justice. And we ask you, Almighty God, to release your justice on this situation." And while we walk through the pain and the suffering, in the middle of it, we still choose to find hope. And to me, that is the characteristic and the hallmark of the Armenian community. And that is the characteristic that as you hand that down, and as you imprint that on the hearts and the minds of the young people who are gathered here today, that ultimately is the success of the Armenian people. So I encourage you to continue to train your hearts and your minds on the hope who is our Almighty God on this day and on every day. Thank you, and God bless you.
I have had the pleasure of interviewing our next speaker several times. As a representative of California's 16th Congressional District, Jim Costa has represented Fresno in the state legislature for 24 years. In 2009 and 2013, Mr. Costa spoke in Washington calling for passage of the Armenian Genocide. He's looking for you.
Madam Mayor, my colleague David Valadao, members of the Fresno City Council, distinguished guests, members of the Armenian National Committee, and friends of our wonderful valley, members of the Armenian community, and everyone today throughout the world commemorating April 24th, we stand in solidarity with Armenians throughout the world. We stand with solidarity with Armenians throughout the world because sadly, this day, 99 years ago, 1915, we saw the first genocide in the 20th century and the horrific deeds that took place with man's inhumanity to mankind during the reign of the Ottoman Empire to the Armenian people. And why it's important that we remember this day every April 24th as we stand in solidarity with the Armenian people throughout the world. It is important because we sadly see man's inhumanity to mankind continue to repeat itself. As the famous philosopher poet Santoyo once said, "For those whom forget history, they are doomed to repeat it." The murderous campaign orchestrated by the Ottoman Empire resulted, we know, by historians throughout the world, in the deaths of over 1.5 million Armenian men, women, and children, and the dislocation and the despair of the Armenian communities in the Middle East. And while it's a pleasure to be here with you this morning to celebrate and to commemorate this tragic anniversary with relatives and families and friends, I want you to know personally that we all have an experience, and I want to share my experience with you, because my experience is your experience, because each and every one of you have similar experiences. Growing up in Fresno, in the Kearney Park area, my friends, our neighbors, were the Collegians, the Abrahamians, the Khazarians. Families, neighbors, friends who I went to school with. And that's where I first learned the stories of the Armenian genocide and how it impacted their families. How I learned that first part of history and the transition of my loss of innocence when you begin to understand the reality of the real world we live in, and sadly, man's inhumanity to mankind. I will never forget those stories in the coffee shops in Rolinda and in their homes. We must never forget these stories, and that's why we are here today. For some, it is easier to sweep history under the rug. As a member of the House of Representatives, I am honored and privileged to represent you along with my colleague David Valadao and other members from the Valley. And that's why I have proudly stood up every time we put the resolution together on a bipartisan basis to try to get the House of Representatives on record, as other nations are on record, as other organizations are on record, in recognizing the Armenian genocide. And now we understand once again the incidents in Kassabian, but the incidences in Weekend Sudan, that man's inhumanity for mankind continues to persist. Sometimes we hear in Congress, now's not the right time. We have a lot of tensions in the Middle East. I say, when is the right time? Genocide should never be tolerated, and we must speak with one clear voice. We will never, ever forget the Armenian genocide and every other genocide that has occurred over the last 100 years, because it is the right thing to do. And that's why it's important. It's important because, sadly, on March 21st, we saw history repeating itself. We saw history repeating itself. Later today, we will meet with families, relatives from Kassab to hear firsthand about the attack. We have directed the State Department to host an investigation and hold Turkey accountable for the insurgents that crossed the border and attacked the village of Kassab on March 21st. The United States must stand strong, right? We must stand strong for the rights of minority populations against senseless violence. Several years ago, as a member of a congressional delegation, I went to Iraq, Afghanistan, and on the way back, we stopped in Turkey with Congressman Mike Pence as our leader, who's now the governor of Indiana. And I told my friend, then Congressman Mike Pence, I said, you know, I cannot be in Turkey without raising the issue of the Armenian genocide. He understood. We met with then Foreign Minister Gül, who is now the president of Turkey. And after we discussed issues concerning the United States and Turkey with regards to the tensions of the Middle East, I said, Mr. Foreign Minister at that time, I said, all countries have parts of their history they would just as soon forget or overlook. In America, we had slavery. Morally reprehensible. We had a civil war on the issue of slavery in America. And 100 years later, we had a civil rights movement. And we acknowledged the moral wrongs that had been done when America in its early years tolerated the institution of slavery. I said in 1915, the Ottoman Empire decided to eradicate Armenians in their country. I am not holding present-day Armenia, Turkey to blame, but it seems to me that in our modern society today, Turkey should do the right thing and acknowledge the genocide, acknowledge the morally reprehensible actions that took place in 1915 to 1923. As a member of the world's modern nations, of course, Foreign Minister Gol, who's now the president, gave the same repackaged story that we heard today by Prime Minister Agoya, that in fact there were deaths, but history has been distorted and genocide did not occur. Obviously, I did not convince Foreign Minister Gol of that fact, but the mere notion that today, on April 24th, the Turkish government felt compelled to even mention the Armenian massacres clearly means that we must continue to raise the issue and keep this fight at the forefront, not just on behalf of the Armenian people throughout the world, but on behalf of all people throughout the world. That is why this is so important. I want to leave you today with a quote that some of you are familiar with from a wonderful Armenian American who is known throughout the world. And I'm talking about Fresno's own William Saroyan. When the Armenian National Committee gathers in Washington every year, and we have Armenians from throughout the country, I always come up and proudly say, I am from Fresno, California. I am from the land of William Saroyan, and my name is Aram. William Saroyan said, and I quote, "I should like to see any power of the world destroy this race, this small tribe of unimportant people whose wars have been fought and lost and whose structures have crumbled. Literature is unread and music unheard and prayers no more answered. Go ahead, destroy Armenia, see if you can do it. Send them into the desert without bread or water, burn their homes and churches, and then see if they will not laugh and sing and pray again. For when two of them meet anywhere in the world, see if they will not create a new Armenia." Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having me here today. God bless each and every one of you. Let us never, ever forget April 24th, a man's inhumanity to mankind that occurred to the Armenian people. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, Congressman Costa. Let us now please welcome Charlie Keyan, Armenian School. We thank you for being here with us today and your commitment to fostering Armenian and Christian values in our youth.
Jana Keyan Armenian Community School. One more. One more. those of you who don't understand, Hayekmink means I am Armenian. For our final speaker, I'd like to welcome David Valadeo. Congressman Valadeo represents California's 21st Congressional District. He serves as a member of the House of Appropriations Committee striving for farmer, military, and veteran issues. He is also one of 4 congressmen to spearhead the Armenian Genocide Truth and Justice Resolution in the House of Representatives in an effort to advance the Armenian and Turkish relations.
Good morning. I represent California's 21st Congressional District, and I have the opportunity and the honor to represent so many in the Armenian community. I grew up in a small community as well. In Hanford, a lot of us are Portuguese immigrants, or at least sons of or daughters of. My parents came to this country at a young age, and they started their family here. And when I first got introduced to the Armenian cause, I assumed it was a lot like the Portuguese community, where people come here, they speak with a strong accent, the kids pick on them a little bit because of the way they pronounce their words wrong in English. But then I spent a little bit of time in the state legislature, and one of my good friends, Kassabian, someone that I got to know really, really well from San Luis Obispo, who sent me the tie to wear today. Good friend. But I used to spend a lot of time with Cacho just talking about what happened, especially after we did the resolution there on the House or on the Assembly floor on the Armenian Genocide, and he told some stories. But then throughout the 2 years that I was there, I used to hear about how his family had left the country, how they went to Lebanon, how he finally came to this country, but just story after story of how they had gone back to see their homes that had been taken from them, and people were living in these homes now, and they don't even have the opportunity to go in and see. And then you hear what's happening now in Kassab, where they're taking these items again from people, but attacking them as well. And obviously, it's very important to recognize not just that they're taking items, but they're killing people. This is a genocide. 1.5 million people lost their lives for nothing. And now we can't even get a country to recognize what they've done. And so in the time that I spent with Cacho, I really got to know and really got to understand how different, even though we're both immigrant communities that come to this country and enjoy the opportunities, and so many have come here and made a huge difference in our valley, and it's something that we can be very proud of, but the history of how we got here is so different. It's so important to recognize, and that's why I've gotten so engaged and so involved in this issue, and along with Congressman Costa and other members from other parts of the country, to make sure that the U.S. recognizes this, that the U.S. takes a position on this, and that we have that conversation with Turkey so that they recognize this as well, and prevent anything like this from ever happening again. And like Congressman Costa mentioned earlier, Churchill's statement of those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And that's what we're seeing today. It's a really scary thing to see this today in the world that we live in. When we have an opportunity, we have the technology we have today, we have the media that we have today, and we have the opportunity to really highlight and make sure that we never forget, but also never allow this to ever happen again. And so we've got to continue this fight. We've got to continue to bring this issue forward. We've got to continue to make sure that we never allow our children to see this or to see something like this happen again. And so that's why I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to represent the community. I'm honored to have the opportunity to represent this area in Congress and make sure that this issue stays in the forefront, make sure that this never happens again, and make sure that people are treated fairly from this point forward. So thank you for allowing me to be here, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this, and anything we can do, I'm always here for you. And I know Congressman Costa and I have spent a lot of time together talking about this, and we'll continue to be here for you as a community, and thank you again.
Thank you, Congressman Valadeo. This concludes the 9th annual flag raising ceremony. On behalf of the Armenian National Committee of America Central California, we would like to thank all of you, our honorary speakers and participants, and most importantly, all of you for continuing the strong presence in our fight. But before we conclude, I'd like to welcome Sevak Tadevosyan for one final announcement.
Just wanted to remind everybody that today, after this ceremony, there's going to be a private meeting between Congressman Valadeo, Congressman Costa, and the families of people from Kassabian. Private meeting where these two congressmen are going to be able to hear exactly what's happening on the ground in Kassabian. So let's give a round of applause to these congressmen for taking the time today to actually hear the truth of what's happening on the ground in Kassabian.
We have fellow dignitaries in the audience who we would like to acknowledge and thank. Jose Avila with Congressman Devin Nunes, Mary Alice Kassabian with Senator Barry Hill, Jane Metcalf with Assemblyman Peterson, Mike Guson, who is running for Auditor Controller, Christine Caprelian with Andrew Vidak's office, Paul Dictos, Fresno County Assessor Recorder, Christopher de la Cerda, Fresno Unified School District. And also Andreas Borges, County Board of Supervisor, who will also present us with a proclamation for the Kassabian.
Good afternoon. I know we're concluding today's ceremony, and I've not been a stranger to the ceremony on an annual basis. It doesn't make it easier every year, however, to be here. Everyone here has a personal story. My family has theirs. The matriarch of our family, Keyan out of Keyan, was a genocide survivor, and this is she passed away last year. But I grew into this family hearing those stories, and I stand with you today as one of you. And I don't mean that in a rhetorical sense. I consider myself a member of the Armenian community. So much so that I even married an Armenian. My friends, I have now recently begun adopting the phrase that I am a Hunahai. I am a Greek Armenian and damn proud of it. Everybody here is commemorating the tragedy that befell the Armenian people. And we should continue to do so until history is righted. I don't know when that's going to be, but on a personal level, the commemoration is not just the commemoration of the genocide. That things are happening on an annual basis that is threatening and creating even more injustices around the world. We've heard today about Kassabian. We have heard about the existential threat in Nagorno-Karabakh. I stand here today as the chairman of the Fresno County Board of Supervisors to let you know that other parts of California, other parts of the United States look to us for leadership on this issue. What is Fresno saying about these issues? Well, Fresno County recognized the independence of ROTC, and we were proud to do so. And Fresno County knows what is happening in Kassabian. The genocide did not end in 1923. It continues on to this day, and it is incumbent upon us to be the leaders, to take the mantle of leadership and make certain that the leaders in Sacramento and the leaders in Washington and the leaders in Ankara understand what we have to say, because we are not going quietly down on this issue. I'm here today, and if I could call upon Manas Sagdijan. Where's Manas? Manas, come up forward, please. This is a very small token of my appreciation of Fresno County's appreciation. in our understanding of what is happening in Kassab. I have before me a declaration condemning the attacks against the Kassab Armenians. If we don't stand united during the recalibration of this world order, we have noticed that in the World War I era, in the recalibration of that time period, bad things happen to minorities. In the recalibration of what's happening presently, bad things happen to minorities. So we stand here today, and I'd like to present this declaration that identifies that Fresno County, the chairman of Fresno County, condemns in the strongest possible terms the attacks on the town of Kassab, and we call upon President Barack Obama to seek an immediate withdrawal of those extremists and an international investigation into those deemed responsible.
Thank you very much, Fresno County Supervisor Chairman Andreas, and all of the Congressman Costa and Valadao. My English is weak. I'm Korean-born Kassabian. On behalf of Kassabians, thank you very much. And Mr. Erdogan, we will take back Kassab.
Before we finish, we'd like to also remind you of the events proceeding. At 7 p.m. today, a commemoration of the genocide will commence at St. Gregory the Illuminator Armenian Church. Fresno County Supervisor Judge Deborah Kazanjian will also serve as guest speaker. For the months of April and May, there will be a photo exhibition at the UC Merced called The Living Martyrs, which will show children who survived the genocide. And as we begin to commence, I would like to welcome Aramais Orkusyan, a Fresno State student, to play the duduk, one of Armenia's oldest and most profound instruments. We would also like to acknowledge Shelly Abadian, who is from Senator Feinstein's office. Thank you everyone for being here.
Let's give a round of applause for our MC, Ellina Abovian, KMPH. Watch her tonight, Channel 10. Before we allow the duduk, I just wanted to announce that at Fresno State today at noon, there is a silent vigil, and at 1, there's a program where Congressman Costa is going to speak. And last but not least, there's also a Centennial group that's meeting already, and they're planning stuff already for next year. So stay tuned, and there may be a monument coming soon. So come on up.
Thank you, Aramais. We thank everyone again for being here.